This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. A little special show today. Back-to-back Angler of the Year special. I know we had Michael Neal on after his back-to-back. I guess we got to call him MLF Invitational Angler of the Years now. And we managed to get the hottest man on the face of the earth for the past decade in bass fishing. Boy, he just never slowed down. And that would be the recently crowned BPT Angler of the Year, Jacob Wheeler, en route. I have no idea where he's en route to, but he was willing enough to jump on BTL, and we're going to do just an AOY special with Jacob Wheeler. He's been on the show a bunch over the past years. It's been a while since you've been on the show. Thanks for taking time to jump on BTL, Mr. Wheeler.
Man, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a good time to jump on there and talk bass fishing with you.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much bass fishing we're talking. Probably just talk about winning, because that seems to be all you do recently. But this is a recorded show. I'm currently down on the Red River right now, getting ready for the Bassmaster Central Open. I promise you, it will not be as productive as what is just wrapping up in Mille Lacs right now, which is giant smallmouth and a lot of them. Kind of stingy, but also big smallmouth. Better than the Red River, I can promise you that. But you just wrapped up, just narrowly missed championship round. I believe, an 11th place finish on Mille Lacs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a close one. I actually I had a tough first part of the morning, and then I was running back and forth, and I ended up losing to my good buddy Mathers in the cut to Adrian. I was inside the cut. I was 7th. I came back and was in 7th. Then I was 8th, and then Adrian caught a 4-pounder with 10 minutes to go, and so I run 7 miles at this one spot. I dropped down. I need a 4-pounder. I catch a 311 and end up missing it for a couple ounces. But overall, obviously the year is insane. And Mille Lacs is. I was talking to Kevin yesterday, and he was talking about how he's like, this is the best smallmouth fishing that's not really, that doesn't have gobies in it in the country. So Mille Lacs is really a special place. I think I had my best day. I probably had a 25-pound bag, best 5. Mark had a 26-pound bag, and his best 5. Most of them were 4 and 5 pounders. A lot of really nice fish in this lake.
You've had an insane year, Jacob, and I had Dakota Ebear on, and I talked to him about how tough, and he talked about how tough it is to have single-digit finishes next to your name. He did something, I think, depending on today's, he'll have a top 10 finish, at least on Mille Lacs, I think, which makes 9 top 10 finishes for him between the don't be shaking your head. You have just the same
That's
thing.
A lot. That's a lot. Dude.
But like I said, you have back-to-back seconds, a 5th, a 3rd, an 8th, a 3rd through the entire season. Do you feel like you make it, and Dakota's made it, and Michael Neal's made it look easier than it actually is to have so many top 10 finishes strung together in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I definitely think you see the end result, and you see these guys are just so consistent and always up towards the top. But I also feel like there's so much of a mindset thing that goes into when you go into an event. Not saying you can go, hey, I'm going to win this tournament, but there was a change in my mindset probably 5 years ago, probably 3 to 5 years ago, where instead of going to the tournament, I remember this guy, a buddy of mine, who's like that back home. He's a big fan of mine, big friend of mine. And he's like, man, you should just go up to the tournaments, and you should know you're going to at least get a check. You shouldn't be worried about getting a check. And I'm like, you don't understand how good these guys are. But he was right in the fact of you can't focus on just what it's going to take to get paid. If you put all your effort and mind and your thoughts into like, this is what it's going to take to get a check, a lot of times you lose sight of like how to actually, perform at a higher level and get and focus on trying to make those top tens and giving yourself an opportunity to win. And I truly feel like that was a big deal for me. And I think that's also been a big deal. I can't speak for those guys, but I would say there's a mindset thing. If you're fishing differently, your mindset is, I got to figure out how to win this tournament. And when you do that, you tend to have a lot more top tens.
Yeah, which is a lot. There was a 7th. So this year you had like an 11th, a 2nd, a 2nd, a 5th, a 3rd, an 8th, a 3rd, and a 7th. And then you piggyback that on what you did last year with the Angler of the Year. At this point in your career, are you like disappointed with back-to-back seconds? Like leading into this, like do you feel like you left stuff on the table? Was your goal the Angler of the Year? You're kind of in a different realm when it comes to that, to where, a lot of guys would be happy with back-to-back seconds. But did you feel like you left some on the table and could have gotten some more hardware this year?
There's no doubt. I look back at last season and I had an insane year, winning 3 tournaments in a single year. And like there was tournaments like the one where when I won at Travis against Bobby. He was catching them really good late in the day. I had an early shad spawn thing going on, and I caught him quick early, and then I just sort of had to maintain what I could, and I barely beat him by a few ounces. And I sort of held on to that one. So tournaments like that things go your way. This year, I can look back at about 3 events that it was super close and could have gone either way. I could have won or, and I ended up getting 2nd or 3rd, and it's just how it is. You lose a fish, you make one bad decision. And that's sort of what it comes down to. You have to you're going to have those good tournaments and those right decisions that you're going to make. And then, but more than not, you're going to have those tournaments that you're going to get close and it's just not going to go your way. And so this year was sort of more of, I just never had that everything go perfect. I think, everybody has an opportunity. I think probably you would say a handful of guys in the top 10 probably lost enough fish to win a tournament every single time in a BBT event. And so you have to fish flawlessly a lot of times to win. And you have to make the right decisions. Just unfortunately this year, it's been an unbelievable year, but it just, those moments didn't swing my way.
Mm-hmm. I feel, having watched the last couple seasons, that you have a distinct advantage over a lot of the field because you've been able to jump out to big leads, whether that's knowing you're going to win the round, whether that's knowing you're going to be in the top 5. You rarely find yourself fighting for that 20th position, which means you don't have to grind based on the rules with the weight zeroing and a short practice that you guys get for the BPT. That is also a lot. And we've seen Michael Neal do it. We've seen other guys do it where they say, okay, I'm done for the day. And they're able to go hunt spots. One of the things that's crazy with you and that terrifies everyone else, because it's cool with the 10 cameras, you get to see it, is they're like, I know Wheeler has something in his back pocket that he's going to make a comeback on. Do you think or a lot of those spots, are you finding areas for the final round and for the second round of the knockout to win it after you've let your foot off the gas and you're using that rules, knowing it's going to zero, knowing you're going to have a couple days off to go hunt for spots instead of just grinding out weight where everyone else is trying to survive? You're 3 chess moves ahead, and then that pays off on the final day?
That's the one of the biggest things you can do, and that's the one deal in this format with the weight zeroing is if you can get a little bit extra practice time and you have the time to go run around and prepare for that championship round or prepare for the knockout round. I'm even practicing. I found myself yesterday, there's places even in the tournament during the knockout round yesterday, I was running around and I catch a pretty good fish. I'm like, man, I remember seeing a couple on this spot up here. I didn't go to my juice. I was already down 20 pounds, but I'm like, I know I can catch them over here. I just need 2 more places to catch 2 more bass and I can make the cut. And so I was looking for those places to catch 2 bass rather than going to the juice and trying to make the comeback. And I caught 1, I didn't catch 2. So there's things that you have to continue to practice in the tournament as well. I think that's a big thing. If you look at thrift, I've always looked at thrift as one of the best at doing that. You can't get locked in to how your day is going to go down. Like I see so many anglers across the country that they'll have a practice period and they'll go 3 days and then they get out there and they're like, okay, I'm going to run this spot, then I'm going to run over to that point, then I'm going to hit this brush pile, then I'm going to hit that dock. And then there's a boat over here, there's a boat over there, there's something, there's a guy, you get your first spot, they're not there. And all of a sudden you just, mess up your whole plan. And I think that's a huge deal is letting the day go to you and come to you. And what I mean by that is sort of just feeling things out. There's sometimes you can get caught up on trying to run to a spot and just like going all in on a place. And I feel like there's certain times where you just sort of got to feel a lake out and sort of like, let me go check out on this and still practice during the event, even when you might not be like, for me, that's a big deal is practicing during the event, even when I'm not up there. Like I'm still practicing. Like there's times I'm shutting down. I'm like, let me just sort of see what's going on right here.
For the first part of your career on the FLW tour and then the Elite Series, just kind of the way with that format is without the zero, that's something you weren't really able to do during the tournament. And this is kind of like a new realm of guys figuring out how to be more efficient, right?
Well, I think yes. During a cumulative 5 fish limit event, I still did it quite a bit, but not as much. I feel like you still have to make adjustments. Like I think there's so many different times I actually did the exact same thing. Like I would really go and like 100%. I would be like running down the lake and be like, well, I'm going to stop here, but let me stop on this point right here because it sort of fits the pattern. And knowing that I had something in my back pocket allowed for me to be able to like, I'm saying maybe not as much, but I definitely did it a decent amount. Like you had, and especially like, when you can actually run a pattern, you have to just sort of, okay, they're doing this, let's roll. But I did it quite a bit back in the day as well. Not as much early on in my career because I didn't understand enough about bass behavior. And I was still learning so much to even catch enough to do well. But then as I sort of figured it out and you get clues, that's when like the pattern aspect of it, like it really becomes a lot of fun. When you can go run around a lake that you have like a Table Rock or a Grand Lake or some lakes that are really set up where the patterns really tend to play really well, where you can just run a pattern because the conditions sort of set up for that. I think maybe not as much practice, I guess, but I definitely ran a lot of new water. And I feel like that is always why a handful of anglers were very dominant throughout the years because they were always looking for fresh fish continuing throughout the event, no matter whether it's a 5 fish limit tournament or every fish counts.
It's crazy how much speed and covering water the top guys in the world. Let's go back to like KVD 07, 08, 09. Like he had his thing. He had the Strike King plug and he was covering water. And I mean, I remember out there watching him and he was doing it efficiently and effectively at a rate no one else was and was putting it in front of more fish. You look at the run Brian Thrift has had, you look at, and it's very few, like old school guys win, like Denny Brower and Tommy Biffle, and they win, but you don't see the consistently at the top level for long periods of time like that. And it seems like there's a group of you guys who have figured out how to effectively cover water fast without losing efficiency. Like that's the whole key to this thing is covering water efficiently and finding fish that are active. And it's happened over time. Like we've got a 20-year time period now of guys who have mastered this, and it seems to be translatable north, south, east, west too throughout the course of an entire season.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. Like efficiency is a huge part of the game. If you're not efficient, you're not able to. It also comes down to, I feel like along with efficiency comes the mental side of the sport. And I was talking to an angler the other day that's retiring this year, and he's like, I just can't process the information fast enough. What it used to take me a couple hours to figure it out and be able to run with it. Now it takes me 5 hours. And then when I figure it out, I only have 2.5 hours of fishing and I'm in 30th place. It's the mindset of processing that information, being able to be efficient, be able to cover water faster, which is along with is sort of hand in hand. It's the efficiency aspect, covering water fast enough, but then being able to process that information and to continue to move on is a huge part of the game right now. And it has been for years.
I mean, processing information and then making quick, effective decisions based on it. It has nothing to do with just fishing. Like if you're a lawyer in the courtroom, if you're a firefighter, a policeman in any occupation that you're in, if you're a day trader, like isn't that what kind of boils down to success in any profession?
I know. I would have to agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the only way to get good at it is to be put in that situation again, receive positive feedback from it, learn from the negative feedback what it doesn't work, and then repeat the process over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. That's the key to life. You just that's the key.
Okay, so let me ask you this though. You've obviously had really positive feedback. You've been able to process this stuff. When was the last time you felt like you really struggled on the water? That you made bad decisions, you weren't totally focused? We're talking a BPT event, maybe a Red Crest, a Heavy Hitters, any of that. Do you have any days where we're human beings? I think you're a human being. Are you a human being? You're a human being, right? It's debatable right now, Jacob. But have you ever had those days where it just didn't feel right? Like when was the last bad day you would say you had on the water?
So last bad day I've had on the water was in Harris Shane. The first and second day competition, I ended up having like the worst finish of my BPT career on Harris Shane. I had a good practice. I thought I made good decisions, but I'll tell you what happened. The mental side it was the first time in the last 5 years or 4 or 5 years that it really got to me on the mental side of things. And I just, whatever happened, I was losing fish. I got sloppy. I went back and looked at the footage because I record everything for YouTube. I went back and looked at my body language, and I lost, I want to say the first day of competition, I lost like 8 out of the 15, good bites I had that day, or 9 out of the 15. It was something insane. I mean, and just stupid stuff like an 8-pounder, you roll them up underneath a dock. You have one jump off on a crankbait and have one jump off on a vibrating jig. They would, it was just nuts. And so I remember, and then the final event, the final day, period, I took another like 5-pounder. I was 4 pounds out, and it jumped a 5-pounder jumps off on the next of the boat, and I missed the cut. Like those, and that was like a really tough one for me because I put all the effort in. I prepped for this event. I pre-practiced all this stuff, and no matter what I did, I couldn't keep them hooked up. I couldn't get them in the boat. And then the tournament was won. Ottifo won the tournament literally off the docks that I was fishing. And that's literally true story. The exact same stretch of docks that I was fishing, Ottifo wins the tournament the final day off those docks and that shallow stretches. And I'm like, unreal. So that was really the last time. That was last year. And I was like, dang, because I made the right decisions. I was right on the right area. Maybe I didn't make the right bait adjustment, but that was really hard for me. I just remember looking back and I was really disheartened because I was like, there goes Angler of the Year. Instantly, I thought that. And so that's when I sort of like mindset changed to winning events. And then it ended up just winning 2. And then you put myself back in Angler of the Year position and then ended up winning Angler of the Year. So, but that one, yeah, that was a tough one.
Wow. All right, we're going to take a break. Like I said, a little truncated show because we're jamming this thing in between appointments. Like I want to talk about that when we get back too, because you're approaching the what we call the Kevin Van Dam deal, where every minute of your time is the more success you have, the less time you have to do what you want. You would think it would be the opposite, but in this industry, it seems to be the exact opposite of that. So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about trends over the last 2 years. We see guys that have done one thing that has carried them through. Is it trends? You seem pretty versatile. I want to talk about that if you have time. So we're going to take a quick break. When we're back-to-back BPT Angler of the Year, Jacob Wheeler on BTL. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and CMAP reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
All right, welcome back, BTL with AOY. Jacob Wheeler. Before break, I kind of mentioned something that I wanted to talk on was with great success comes great responsibility. And one of the things when Kevin went on his incredible run, I mean, he's still on an incredible run, but we're just talking about, you know, other humanly stuff there. It was like before your time. You were like 14, 15 years old. You were only like 2 years away from winning the All-American at that point. But it was like right when I kind of started covering the Elite Series, and it was just unbelievable. And the thing that most of his competitors on the Elite Series had respect for Kevin about was the fact that he had so many off-the-water obligations pulling him in every direction, and he was still able to dominate and go back to back to back to back with the Angler of the Year. Are you feeling that? Have you felt that? Are you at the point of your career now where you have to be very careful about how you distribute your time so it doesn't affect your on-the-water performance?
Yeah, 100%. I try to always make a point. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of great partners that have been with me for a very long time. And, they understand, obviously, for me, I have a small family now too. I have a little boy and a little girl. I have Hudson. He's almost, he'll be a year here very shortly. And then Olivia, she's 3.5, almost she'll be 4, and actually here coming up in January. So, my family is very important to me. I know there'll be a time that I have to slow down to give them some time as well. But on the sponsor side and partnership side, I've been able to sort of I've been able to be a little bit smarter with my time. And what I mean by that is you still have to prioritize your competition. If you don't prioritize your events, you can't continue to stay at that high of a level. If I don't look at the schedule and say, all right, these two right here priority as far as pre-practicing. So I need to go to those to look at that body of water because I've never been there. These two right here, I can or I can't. It's not, if it's a spawn event, for instance, this year, Lake the Ozarks. I didn't go and pre-practice that event because I figured it would be a spawn event. You put your sunglasses on and go look around a little bit. And that's really just, you're going to have to, you can't do anything to really benefit yourself. Maybe getting familiar with the lake, but that sort of it wasn't beneficial for me to leave my family for that week or leave my family for a couple of days there. So, but really I feel like the partnership side of it, it's definitely increasingly more demanding. It definitely is. There's more days that I'm gone, but I've been able to sort of as of right now, been able to juggle it so far, and it definitely has increased, but I feel pretty good about where I'm at. Like I'm not pre-practicing every event like when I started. I'm not gone. I'm only having 2 days of I don't really fish. I didn't fish the pro circuit. You only have a handful of events. I fished, I think, 10 or 12 events all season long. So I'm able to, it's manageable right now. It's manageable.
You kind of remind me, there's a bull rider, JB Mooney, and there's like this little thing that they did on Vice with him and talked about like how he was good. And he was like, yeah, everyone thinks I was just like born like this, like able to ride these bulls and stuff. And it was interesting. He said it wasn't like working out. You can never overpower a bull. He goes, but what people didn't see, and he said, I just let him think I'm a freak of nature, was he would stand on like a bowling ball for 2 hours a day. And then he would like growing up, and then he would like jump on this like mechanical bull thing for like 5 or 6 hours a day. And he said that that's where it became to where he was winning all this stuff. And people were like, this dude's just a freak. He goes, but what you didn't see was the back end that went into that allowed me to stay on that bull for 8 seconds. And I feel like, you talk to Brandon Polinick or a Justin Lucas or you or a Jordan Lee. And I think there's so much back end that you guys put in starting from when the time you were 13, 14 on that these people are like, well, how are these guys in their 30 years old and are so dominant? But I don't think you get that way without all the stuff that people don't see, right? Is that a fair statement? Like, I mean, how much time do you put in behind the scenes that's not on social media, that's not seen, that's not
that's half of my job. I mean, that is what it comes down to, out strategizing your competition. Like, this is a thing that people don't understand. So bass fishing is very unique, is a sport, because this is like, I have to, when I go to an event, I can't only just factor in the 79 other guys that I'm competing against. I have to factor in locals, local tournaments, weekend anglers. Every single one of the people out there on the water, any angler out there on the water, can affect my day of competition, not knowingly, not in purpose. It's public bodies of water. So you have to out strategize not only your field that you're competing against, but then also everybody else, because that could be pressured to end up putting yourself in a good position to potentially have a good event. So, like, yes, that's a huge part of it. Prep is a huge deal. Like, I don't really talk a heck of a lot about the backside of it, because that's the stuff, that's when you win and lose. Like, you don't really want to motivate everybody to like, hey, go work harder. Like, you just don't. Like, what's the point? That it just makes it harder for you, Yeah. But there is a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of hours and thought and effort that goes into every single event. My wife could tell you the most, probably more than anybody, because she sees it more than anybody. She knows how much hard work goes into it. But I think you have to, if you're not dedicated to almost an insane amount to the sport that you're in, there's no way that you could be at the top. It might be short lived, but there's no way you're going to be there for very long.
There's like a group of you guys that are all pushing each other right now. I feel like not only your little group with like Connell and MDJ and them, but like I feel like Lucas is in that mix, and then some of the new guys that come out, but you guys all have a system that's worked, and I feel like it, just watching it from the outside and talking to some of them, like I know it like drives them nuts when you beat them, and I know you don't want to get beat them. Like I've said for years, like you and Lucas could have like the greatest rivalry in the history of sports right now. Like every time it's in the top 10, I talk to him a lot, and I'm always like, you gonna get him this time? And he's like, damn, I don't know. He's always freaking in the top 3.
I know. I told Adrian. So Adrian kicked me out of the top 10 the other day, and I said, man, I would have felt bad if you would have been in like 7th, and Lucas would have been in 8th, and I didn't do my job and kick him out. I'd have felt bad that I didn't make that. All of us make the top 10. I mean, I obviously Lucas.
Rivalries are good.
Yeah, but I don't like losing to Lucas. No, Lucas has that he's very confident. And I have the same confidence. We all have fun with it, but we hate hate losing. I mean, I don't like losing to anybody, but yeah, especially Lucas. Yeah, you can't. There's a couple other people that I despise hating or despise losing to, not despise losing to. There's a couple others that I'm like. Brent Ayler, I would hate to lose to Brent Ayler. Me and Brent Ayler do not get along at all.
That's a good rivalry. That's like two opposites too.
Would not, no.
So you like look at the standings, like if you're like not in first, which you usually are, you're always like, got him.
No, I don't really go to that extent, but I'm like, if he's in the top
local
10,
events.
If he's in the top 10 and I'm like, I ain't losing to him today.
Yeah.
Sort of a deal like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it pushes you but that's what's healthy about competition is like you have to be pushed. You get like if you're always the top, like those days, like when you get your butt kicked, you're like, dang, dude, I got outsmarted. They thought, man, like Connell completely outsmarted me and out-strategized me at Cayuga by diving into the smallmouth side of it. And I went for the sure thing because Angler of the Year with largemouth. I committed to it. I knew the North End was productive. I knew if I put all my time and effort into that I would have a good tournament. And I had the best group of largemouths found on the whole lake at least for me, out of the group of anglers. But Connell had the quality of the smallmouth. And I'm like, damn, when he came in, I remember like after day 2 of the tournament, like knockout, right before knockout round, he goes, yeah, you while you were beating up, you and Lucas were battling out for that automatic bid. I said, yeah, I found some. I was shaking them suckers off, and I'm like, fudge. Yeah. I'm like, I knew it. I was like, gosh. He's like, yeah, I found 3 more freaking juice holes, and I'm like, gosh, dang. So it really is. Everybody pushes everybody to become better, to step their game up, and that's what it's all about.
All right, a couple more questions. We'll let you get back on the road. One, I wanted to talk about trends. Anything over the last couple years that you've been able to lock in your hand and has gotten the job done day in and day out?
Well, I mean, obviously, a vibrating jig is obviously it seems like you wind it around, you can get some bites. That's a huge deal. I think the biggest trend that and we've talked about this a little bit sometimes is being versatile now. There's not a trend of a lure. It's like if they're not, you can't be a specialist anymore. If you're going to be, you have to be good at everything. That's the biggest trend as of recent with professional bass fishermen. You cannot be a specialist. You have to be a generalist, and you can have a couple techniques you're good at and that you're very confident in, but you have to know how to do every single technique. You know how to catch them in 40 foot of water, drop it on them, and catch them in a foot of water, sight fishing or flipping shallow wood. If you can't do it all, you won't be bass fishing very long at the top level.
Going forward, this is back-to-back Angler of the Years. You have the cup, rest in peace, under your belt. Dude, it's an interesting time in bass fishing now. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I talked to Matt Steffen in a show that'll air this year, and I said, dude, if you were to take a snapshot of fishing now and then a snapshot of fishing 3 years from now and then compare them to each other, how similar do you think they'll look? And he had an interesting answer, and I'm curious, what do you think your answer is on that?
And 3 years from now, I mean, it's tough because you have to have non-endemic. There's only so many eyeballs that follow professional bass fishing. Okay, we're only so big, and at the end of the day, trying to build a sport is what everybody's been trying to do for years, and still, you're limited to how many eyeballs are out there and how many people are actually following it. And that limits the sponsorship dollars for the leagues. That limits what they can do as far as an organization. And so I think, even going back to like the start of the BBT, the reason that I know, at least for me, that I thought this was a great opportunity was, hey, look, this is something different that might have a chance to double the size of the viewership, triple the size. And if what we've been doing for 30 years has stayed the same for 30 years, And so it's like, how can we grow this sport? And yes, this is different, but like, is there a chance it could be the key to maybe increasing payouts and it, it has elevated the sport, but again, there's negatives and positives on both. And I don't know. I think next season or in 3 years from now, I don't know what the future holds. Obviously, it is a different time in professional bass fishing. There's a lot of changes every single year. There's change here. There's changes there. It's just, it can be, I don't know. I mean,
it's a great time to have a podcast.
I don't have a great answer. Yeah, I don't have a great answer for you. I'm sure Matt's is way better, but I was like, I believe that the problem is, like I said, we somehow have to grow the audience. And if that's never done, then it will stay where it's at for years to come.
I like the team deal that you guys are doing. I think that's cool. That's coming up this fall. I think that has some potential.
I agree. I think it's the thing. Major League Fishing has made some mistakes over the years, 100%. But the one thing that I do appreciate about their organization is they're not afraid to switch it up and try something new. And so that's important. And I think that is something, the team deal. I'm here in a week. I got the first one.
Nice.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But I might be doing some yelling at my teammates. Look at it, we got it. They might be yelling at me. Who knows? I mean, it'll be fun though. I think that sort of changes the dynamic up a little bit. And I think you have to think outside the box a little bit. I also look at like Ballybet, and I look at sports betting and how whether you like it or you don't. I think that could be a major player long term into a sport where, hey, look, maybe not everybody's watching. Like I have friends of mine that do not fish at all, but they've watched Major League Fishing. They watch the format, and they'll turn on the last period of every single cut day, or at least the last hour. It's like watching the last quarter of an NCAA football game. You know what I'm saying? And it's close. You're like, yeah, I want to watch this. And so I think there's opportunity there, and I think that could open up some doors. But there's so many unknowns. I like we're switching it up a little bit and trying some different things.
I had a dude send me a DM on Instagram, and he's like, "Hey, you really want to make it exciting because as everyone tunes in for the last hour, he goes, do an 8-hour day and have them cut 3 guys every hour."
Ooh.
So you start with 40, and the bottom 3 guys after the first hour gone, bottom 3 guys after the second hour gone, and would that not be Western?
Holy smokes! I'm sure you wouldn't get the anglers to agree with that, but that would be entertaining.
I would definitely enjoy watching it. All right, in your wildest dreams, as a 19-year-old winning the All-American, did you ever dream that you'd be making this much every single year bass fishing?
No, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm super thankful and blessed to be where I'm at right now. But I would have never thought, like in a million years, that I would be where I'm at. Like I going back, even the All-American, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fish professionally. Like, and I had that confidence I was gonna make this thing happen. But it's really, I'm still in a moment where like it's hard to look back and really take it all in. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at the events and you win and you keep pushing and you can't, okay, I got second that one. Let's keep going to the next one. All right, I won this one. Okay, I won that. All right, you did this. Okay. You can't appreciate I don't think I'll ever appreciate it until probably maybe to when I retire or something. Like, it's just to the point where when I start not catching a bass, and that could happen next year. That could happen, the next event. Mm-hmm. I think you have to look back and be like, man, like, you just got to keep pushing yourself. You can't get complacent. And if you appreciate it and you stop and you look back, and you're like, man, but yeah, I thought about that. Like, what would my 15-year-old self think, like, about where I'm at right now? Like, I'm like, wow. Like, I also feel like that's, I just don't even, I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed in a million years that I could be in the position that I am, man. It's really amazing.
All right, last question. it's hard to believe you're only 11 years into this thing, and you've got a lot ahead of you. And I've had conversations before. It seems like your drive is not at all wavering in the near future.
No.
Best piece of advice a veteran angler who's been there and done that has given you over the past couple years since you've elevated yourself to the top angler in the world?
The best piece of advice that I received early on in my career was Dave Washburn at FLW at that point in time. He told me, he said, look, Jacob, he's like, there's a tournament on the water and there's a tournament off the water. If you can win both, you'll have a successful career. You win one, you have a decent career, solid career. But the anglers that figure out how to win both and work with the sponsors and work with the partnerships and figure out that whole thing and invest in their own brands off the water and then also kill it on the water are the ones that truly can make it in this sport. And if you don't do that, I'm not saying you want, a lot of people just want to go bass fishing. But you can never truly get to your full potential if you don't look at it as two tournaments. And I was like, that was probably the biggest piece of advice growing up in fishing professionally that I've ever been given, and took it to heart and realized how right he was.
That's good stuff. Hey, I greatly appreciate the time. When things settle down, when we got a little bit of downtime this fall, I would love to have you back on BTL, maybe get into some baits, some tactics. I got to know more about this jabberjaw deal because I've had a couple guys get in the boat with me and they're like, have you thrown this thing? And I'm like, no, it's a plug with a weird metal lip. And then they catch him. Then they catch him behind me and I'm like, crap, this is Biffle Bug, Alabama rig, and chatterbait all over again. So anyway, I know you got to go, but open invite. I'll get with you. We'll get on this fall. We can actually talk some baits and stuff. I always have enjoyed doing that with you over the year. And congratulations, back-to-back Anglers of the Year on the BPT. I saw a peek of that hardware in the back seat, and I'm sure that'll have
right there.
Yeah, that'll right have a new home. Shlo, you might have to move a couple of the others over to the side. So.
We'll find room. There's no problem. There's plenty of room. Always.
All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Good luck down there at that Bass Open.
Oh, I'll need it. It's on the Red River.
I know. I remember the last time I was there. I know it's way worse. I'm like, gosh. Good luck. I hope you catch him, bro.
All right. See ya. All right. That was Jacob Wheeler. Like I said, big shout out to him for giving some time to talk about that. And that dude is a fierce competitor. And one thing that I didn't really get into, didn't have the time to it, but he's a rule, like he reads the rules. He knows how to use the rules and reads and listens them and then applies them, just like he does with his fishing strategy on the water and always having a game plan. And like he talked about, paying attention to the locals and the tournaments and outside factors. He also knows how to use everything to his advantage to get the maximum effort. Stone cold killer, and obviously hates to lose. It's interesting. All those guys at the top seem, and with the exception of Ike, and I think Ike is even more tempered and focused than we give him credit for, especially back in the Angler of the Years and classic days and winning. But they all have certain little themes and personality traits and drives to succeed. And it's just really impressive to see. So, all right, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will wrap things up on an AOY edition of BTL.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors, but Don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute, every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronic setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, wrapping things up here on an Angler of the Year special with Jacob Wheeler after wrapping up his second Angler of the Year on the BPT. It wasn't even close. I mean, Jordan Lee finished in second place, and it was like almost 100 points. It was insane. He had the thing like wrapped up at the beginning. He just never struggled during the entire year. He hasn't struggled for the last like 3 years. You talk about the wins, racking up the wins. Talk about the top 10s, the top 5s, like an 11th, a 2nd, a 2nd, a 5th, a 3rd, an 8th, a 3rd, a 7th. That includes Red Crest and also heavy hitters in there. I did want to point out something that came out a couple weeks ago that some of you may or may not be interested in. I did a dink and dunk, a little finesse, Bridges, Marina, Rip, Rap, and Ramps, the Spoken Hub Theory, the whole 9 yards that went out on Bass University. If you're interested in that seminar that came out a couple weeks ago on the Bass University. So if you're a subscriber to Bass University, you're interested, there's a lot of guys who know a lot of stuff and have a lot of great seminars on that platform. I've attended some of them kind of as a media guy to shoot photos and videos behind the scenes, and it's interesting. You'll go to one of those Bass Universities and certain guys like Christy will be talking, and like everyone else who's there who's like doing seminars will like sneak into the back of the room and listen to them because they do give up some good stuff. But you will not catch them like Jacob Wheeler if you watch the Bass University Dink and Dunk, but it will help you put 10 to 12 pound limit in the boat on stingy fisheries, not tidal fisheries though. Tidal fisheries are a completely different animal. Looking forward tomorrow, like I said, recorded show today. Tomorrow, Matt Steffen comes on for his quarterly appearance on BTL. A really smart guy who understands things from a numbers perspective and an analytical perspective. Really going to enjoy talking with him about his season, kind of an uncharacteristic season for Matt Steffen, but it'll be interesting to see what his future holds as well. Jacob mentioned with the conclusion of the BPT now, the Elite Series, there is one more NPFL on the schedule and a couple more opens, but as far as that very top level, that's all done for 2022, and looking forward to 2023 to see if the man can three-peat. So I think that's all we got for today. This has been another edition of BTL, Bass Talk Live, Angler of the Year special with Jacob Wheeler, who took the time to do that. Greatly appreciated. All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.